All right. Okay, so here we are. We are going to talk about, last week we talked about what is a brand. Today we're going to talk about how to create brands. So let's review. What is a brand? Who can tell me? You can just turn your mic on so I can hear you. I'll move this over here so I can see. Who can tell me? Should I just call on someone?
I would say a distinction. A brand to me could be a noticeable sign of something, like a sign.
Is it one thing?
No, there's
Oh,
more. There's more to
yeah,
it.
exactly. It's more than one thing. Who can help Raoul out? That's a good start. What is a brand?
It's like a visual, like, um, visual identity and also like an experience and like a reputation and of something, which is
Absolutely.
so in the, yeah.
Yeah. It's is it a it's the customer, the person's perception, the customer's perception of a product, service, experience of that organization or company, right? So it's what we perceive because of all of the touch points we've had with them. It's our perception of product, service, because of our experience with that organization. And that can be visual, that can be what we hear, that can be what we taste, that can be what we see, right? It's all those things. So a brand speaks to the mind and the heart, while a brand identity is tangible and appeals to the senses. So, what is a logo then? Who can tell me that?
It's like the representation of the brand.
Yes, it's a representational of a company or organization, right? You're absolutely right. It's a visual symbol, typically a graphic image, emblem, or icon used to represent a company, organization, or what we would call a brand. It serves as a point of identification, helping the public recognize and distinguish the brand. Let's go a little deeper. It's a visual representation, right? They're designed to be visually memorable and easily recognizable, often incorporating elements like typography, font style, colors, shapes, and symbols. A well-designed brand identity will have a logo with an effectively communicating a company's values, mission, and overall brand personality. It's an identification and a recognition. Logos are crucial for building brand recognition to help customers instantly connect with a company or product. You don't want confusion, right? You want to know that if you're going to get burgers and fries consistently all over the world, you're going to look for the golden arches. That is what we're looking for to know what we're getting, no matter where we go. We're looking for the golden arches, which is McDonald's. Importance, a good logo can make a strong first impression, build brand loyalty, and help a company stand out from the competition. So there are different types of logos, and we're going to kind of dive into it because this week for our homework, we are going to take a crack at using all of these different types of logos. So we're going to do pictorial marks, abstract or symbolic marks, letter marks, word marks, badge or emblems, combination marks, and mascots. Let's take a deeper dive in what those are. So the first one, and you might want to take notes on this because you are going to be creating all of these. So pictorial marks. Here's a couple examples of pictorial marks. They're based on well-known objects, right? We know what an apple looks like. We know what a panda bear looks like. These have been stylized and simplified, right? Stylized and simplified, and that's key. Um, but they are known objects. They're not abstract. We know what they are. So let's look at some more. We know we have a fish, we have a person, we have a peacock. right? We have a bird, we have a mermaid, a person's head for PBS, of course, the panda, we have the apple, and we have a dragon. These are all symbols that we know, the sun. Um, I think this is an otter. So just all the things we know. Those are pictorial marks. And we also have abstract or symbolic marks. It embodies a big idea, but it isn't necessarily something we know for sure what it is. It's more abstracted. So here we have for BP, I mean, that could be a flower, it could be a sunburst. It is just really a graphic pattern that's been created, a radial pattern. For Toyota, it's really just three ovals, the outer oval and two inner ovals intersecting. But it kind of looks like a cowboy hat, kind of looks like rings intertwined. I mean, there's lots of different ways you can interpret it. It's abstract. There's no definite of what this is. Let's look at some more. Right? So you can see that they are, based on shapes, really, right? Circles, swirls, you know, um, rectangles, all kinds of different shapes. Here's an example of an abstract symbol set that was created into a brand. So what this was done for MIT. They created an abstract pattern that every person in the company got their own version of the pattern. It all fit within the same criteria, but this is like all of these marks are part of their brand. And every person in the company got their own variation of the mark. Okay, so let's move into letter marks. Letter marks are stylized and designed into a specific message. So I think you're all probably familiar with GE. It's been around over 100 years. You have Unilever, which is a bunch of icons and symbols made into the shape of a letter. Excuse me. Let's look at a few more. So you can see these are all letter marks. I'm sure many of these you can figure out which they are. Some of them may be more abstracted to you, but you can see the letter form in all of them. Okay, and let's move on to word marks. Probably the simplest form of the name of the company becomes the logo through the use of unique typography. So this is not a situation where you're just picking a font and putting it as your word mark. You're doing something that makes you own it. There's something special, specific you've done, manipulated it in some way so that you can own it. And so here you can see Saks Fifth Avenue. And this is a hand lettered font. DuPont is warped, right? It has like an envelope warp on it. Here's some more examples. These are word marks that are very specific and customized in a way that would make you own it, whether it's the scale, whether it's the alignment, the ligatures, or what have you. IBM, of course, famous Paul Rand design. Badge marks or emblems. These are the company name is connected to a pictorial element. So TiVo, which doesn't exist anymore, but was always the most adorable little badge mark. Nickelodeon, I don't know that they use this mark either anymore, but it is also, this has a symbol that the splat, but it also changed to all different shapes. They had a really interesting badge mark identity system that allowed them to switch out the shapes many times over. Here's a few more. Design Within Reach, Tazo, Burgers Bagel. This is an older version of Burgers Bagel's logo. They have a newer one now. But the reason is a lot of these are older logos because honestly, we're moving more and more away from the badge logo because it does not work great digitally. The logo has to get so small that it just does not work great digitally. For that reason, we're really kind of moving away from it. But it's still good to explore. And some will and some won't. Here is an example of mascots. You might be familiar with some of these. The gecko has a Cockney accent and is a standard in television and advertising campaigns. So it's not only the visual of this mascot, it's for this one, it's also his accent, how he sounds, how he talks, the words he used. So it's a combination for the brand of the visual of the gecko as well as the way he talks. For Quaker Oats, he's quiet. I mean, sometimes I think they've had a Quaker Oat speak in their commercials, but a lot of times you don't hear from the Quaker Oats. He's just a symbol on the packaging. Here's a before, here's an after design. He's changed over the years. He lost weight in the more recent adaptation of him. You can see he's slimmed down in his face. And so Ozempic, it's hitting everybody. So there is the change in Quaker Oats. So those are the different styles, and we're going to be exploring all of them. Once you've created and your client has signed off on an identity, then it needs to be trademarked. A name or symbol used to show that a product is made by a particular company, and you want to legally register it so no one else can own it. And so your client, this is something that the client will happen on the client's end. Once you've designed something, they will trademark it so that no one else can own it. Only they own it. And that's really what that's why these designs, they're going to go through the trademark office. And if the trademark office finds a similar design, they will not trademark it. It has to be unique. It has to be trademarkable. Let's talk about what the first registered trademark was. It was in 1777. It was Bass Ale. Bass Ale was the first registered trademark. And that's when it started. Simple triangle, a shape with the word bass. So let's talk about the different parts of an identity. You have the mark, which is, for this example, the square with the dotted square is the mark. You have the word spectrum health, which is the logo type. In other words, it's the word mark. And then you have a tagline for a better life. I notice how they all have a very specific typeface and spacing and arrangement. That whole lockup is what we call it, is a signature. That means it's the logo type, the mark, and the tagline. Those three things equals a signature. So when we're designing for an identity for a company, we need to answer who, what, and why. Before anything begins, the most basic question that must be asked and answered are who is the client, who is the audience, and what is needed. A logo should grow organically from the answers at the top of these questions. So we're going through, you've been given a creative brief. You don't have an actual client you're going to talk to for this project, but I wanted to just demonstrate the process you would use with a specific client. So for example, you would do a list of briefing questions for a client. Understand like what's the customer's positioning compared with other companies. And that's like that competitive audit. We've done a competitive audit, but then it goes deeper than that. Where do we stand in that competitive audit? Who are we directly competing with? Who is above us? Who is below us? What are we doing better than other companies? What are they doing better than us? We would go much deeper. The purpose, what's the client's business? What's the purpose of the client, what they're doing, their mission, their vision, the culture, personality, their goals, the audience goals. So all of these things we would be looking for. The other thing we're going to be talking about is the fact that as a brand, it needs to stand for something. The best brands stand for something, a big idea, a strategic position, a defined set of values, a voice that stands apart. Symbols, all they are vessels for meaning. So, your logo isn't going to make people fall in love with this brand. McDonald's logo isn't making people love McDonald's. McDonald's delivering consistency of product that people can depend on anywhere in the world they go is what makes people love McDonald's. The logo helps them find McDonald's, helps them identify McDonald's, but that's not what's going to make them love McDonald's, right? So the brand itself has to stand for something. Meaning drives creativity. So you have to have an understanding of what the company is about so that we can drive that creativity. Meaning builds consensus, and a meaning evolves over time. So we want to think about the coherence of a unified voice and a dynamic central idea. One company strategy, thinking about the whole company and that they're always consistent. Every touch point that a customer feels is consistent. The look and feel, the uniform quality, clarity, and simplicity has to be easy to read, easy to understand, and it has to be consistent through every way a customer will reach that client's business. So that means the website, the social media, the signage, the in-store packaging, the in-store experience, all of it has to stay consistent. And that's what your identity mark will need to do. It has to work in all those different environments. So the last slide I have here is the logo development process. And when you're working with a client, there is really this collaboration. So this blue box here at the first box is really kind of talking about you're working directly with the company. You're gathering information, you're developing a schedule, you're confirming context, presenting ideas. You're establishing that criteria as a designer. Then you're developing an exploration of clarifying the messaging, exploring formal approaches, confirming applications. You're meeting with the client, showing them the versions that you've created, showing them the ideas. They're giving you feedback, and then you're going to refine and move forward in that refinement, finalizing the custom letter forms, selecting final color palettes, investigating manufacturing techniques, demonstrating interactions with other media, and presenting your final refinements. And then once it's approved, you're going to move into applications and production. And lastly, you would create a system showing the standards manual, telling the company how to use their new logo and identity, overseeing the visualization of the system, coordinating with any outside vendors and the in-house department, and modifying the system as needed. And that's another collaborative part of the process with that client. And that's really the process for developing an identity, a logo specifically. So, thoughts, questions?